Princess Kyla stood at the tall window of her father's throne room and looked out at the stars. 3 years of war had cost her people so much. Thousands of Valorian soldiers had died in battles against the humans. The Empire had spent fortunes building new warships. And for what? The war had not moved forward. It had not moved backward. It simply continued, day after day, like a wound that would not heal. Kayla, we need you to do this, her father said behind her. Emperor Theron's voice was tired. He looked older than he had 3 years ago. The war had aged him. She turned to face him. You want me to marry one of them? A human? It is the only way to end this conflict with honor, her father replied. The humans have agreed to a marriage alliance. They say it will bind our peoples together. Make us family instead of enemies. Kayla felt her stomach twist. She had seen humans before. In diplomatic meetings and on battle recordings. They looked strange to her eyes. Soft skin, instead of the scaled patterns her people had. Round ears, hair that grew wild on their heads. They seemed so fragile. Yet they had held the mighty Valorian Empire to a draw for 3 years. Why would they want this? She asked. What do they gain? Her father sat down heavily on his throne. Peace, they say. Just peace. I do not understand them, daughter. Our military commanders say the humans fight without proper strategy. They use old weapons. Their ships are smaller than ours, yet we cannot defeat them. Then we are stronger, Kayla said. She felt a small flame of pride. They know they cannot win. So they offer marriage instead of surrender. Her father did not answer right away. He looked at her with an expression she could not read. Perhaps, or perhaps they have other reasons. Commander Kess believes we should reject this offer. He wants to press the attack with everything we have. And you disagree? I have lost one son already in this war. Your brother died on the border. I will not risk losing my daughters too. He stood and walked to her. You volunteered for this, Kayla. You do not have to go through with it. She straightened her shoulders. I volunteered because I want to save lives. Valorian lives. If my marriage can stop the killing, then I will do it gladly. 2 weeks later, Kayla stood in the docking bay of Epsilon Prime, a neutral station between human and Valorian space. She wore the formal robes of a Valorian princess, deep purple with silver threading. Her handmaiden, Lissa, stood beside her, looking nervous. Remember your training, Your Highness, Lissa whispered. Do not show weakness in front of them. The human ship docked with a soft thud. The airlock cycled open with a hiss. Kayla expected soldiers to march out, weapons ready, making a show of force. Instead, a small group of humans walked through casually. They wore uniforms, but they smiled and talked to each other like friends meeting for dinner. One of them stepped forward. He was tall for a human, with short brown hair and warm brown eyes. He wore a military uniform with captain's insignia. Princess Kayla, he said, and his accent was strange to her ears. I'm Jake Morrison. It's an honor to meet you. He extended his hand. Kayla had studied human customs. This was a greeting called a handshake. She reached out and gripped his hand. His skin was warm and soft. He shook her hand once, gently, then released it. Captain Morrison, she replied, keeping her voice formal. I hope this alliance will bring lasting peace to both our peoples. That's the plan, he said, and he smiled. The expression seemed genuine. Please, call me Jake. We're going to be married in a few days. Might as well get comfortable with each other. Behind him, a human woman with gray hair stepped forward. I'm Ambassador Lisa Grant. We've prepared quarters for you and your attendant. I hope the accommodations will be satisfactory. Over the next 3 days, Kayla met more humans. They confused her. They did not act like a people at war. They laughed easily. They seemed relaxed. When she asked Jake about the war, he shrugged. It was unfortunate, he said. Border disputes usually are. But that's behind us now. Did you lose anyone? She asked. In the fighting? His smile faded for a moment. I did. Good people. Friends. Then the smile returned. But it looked different now, sadder. That's why I volunteered for this. I didn't want to lose anyone else. The wedding ceremony was strange. It combined Valorian and human traditions. Kayla wore white, as humans did, but with Valorian symbols embroidered in silver. Jake wore his military dress uniform. They exchanged vows in both languages. When it came time for the human custom of kissing, Kayla felt awkward. But Jake was gentle, and the kiss was brief. At the reception afterward, Kayla watched the humans celebrate. They drank something called champagne and danced to music. The Valorian guests stood stiffly, uncomfortable with such casual behavior. She needed air. She stepped out onto an observation deck that overlooked space. Through the window, she could see the border zone where the war had been fought. It looked peaceful now. Empty. Beautiful. Isn't it? A voice said behind her. She turned. A human officer stood there, a man with gray at his temples. He held a glass of champagne. Colonel Ben Harris, he introduced himself. I served with Jake during the war. Did you lose people too? Kayla asked. Too many. He took a drink. But it's over now. Thank God for that. Another human officer joined them, younger, with red hair. Ben? You coming back to the party? In a minute, Chris, Ben said. Then he lowered his voice, speaking to the other officer but not quite quiet enough. She has no idea what they just avoided. None of them do, Chris replied. Probably better that way. Let them think we were evenly matched. They walked away, leaving Kayla standing alone with her thoughts racing. What did that mean? What had her people avoided? She returned to the reception and watched Jake laughing with his friends. He caught her eye and smiled, waving her over. She went to him, and he put his arm around her waist in the human way. Having a good time? He asked. Yes, she lied, but doubt had planted itself in her mind. The humans were too relaxed, too casual about ending a war that had cost both sides so much. It was as if the war had been nothing to them, as if they could have ended it any time they wanted. As the party continued around her, Kayla made a decision. She would learn everything she could about humans. She would discover their secrets. She would understand why they had really agreed to this peace. And she had a terrible feeling that when she learned the truth, it would change everything she thought she knew about the universe. Kayla's first view of Earth took her breath away. She had expected a primitive world, perhaps covered in factories and military bases. Instead, she saw blue oceans and green continents, wrapped in white clouds. Cities glittered like jewels in the sunlight. It looked peaceful, beautiful. Welcome home, Jake said beside her as their shuttle descended toward the landing pad. Home. The word felt strange. This was not her home. Valoria Prime was her home, with its red skies and crystal cities. But this was her life now. Jake's quarters were in a building near the military command center. The apartment was simple, but comfortable. Large windows looked out over a garden filled with plants Kayla had never seen before. Lissa moved through the rooms, inspecting everything with suspicious eyes. It seems safe enough, Your Highness, Lissa said quietly in their language. Please. Both of you just call me Kayla, she said, switching to the human language. If I am to live here, I should live as they do. Jake showed her around the city over the next few days. Kayla kept waiting to see the weapons factories, the military training grounds, the signs of a warlike culture, but instead, she saw parks where children played, markets where people sold food and art, schools and hospitals and theaters. Where are your war factories? She finally asked. Jake looked confused. War factories? The places where you build weapons, ships, military equipment. Oh, those are mostly automated now, he said with a shrug. And they're not in cities. We keep that stuff separate from where people live. Why? I just expected to see more evidence of your military strength. He stopped walking and looked at her carefully. Kayla, we're not at war anymore. We build what we need for defense, but our whole society isn't focused on fighting. Is that what Valorian worlds are like? She thought about the great weapons forges on Valoria Prime, the military academies that dominated the capital city, the monuments to ancient conquests. We take security very seriously. So do we, Jake said quietly. We just go about it differently. The next week, a human woman named Dr. Amy Chen arrived at their apartment. She was small and energetic, with black hair pulled back in a simple style. She carried a bag full of data tablets. I've been assigned as your cultural liaison, Amy said cheerfully. Basically, I'm here to help you understand how things work on Earth, and to answer any questions you have about humans. Kayla liked Amy immediately. She was direct and honest, and she did not treat Kayla like a princess who might break. Over the following weeks, Amy took Kayla to museums and libraries. She showed her human art, music, and literature. She explained human customs and holidays. But it was the history lessons that disturbed Kayla the most. This can't be right, Kayla said, staring at the data tablet in her hands. You're telling me humans fought a war that killed 50 million people? Against each other? The Second World War, Amy confirmed. And that wasn't even our deadliest conflict when you account for population percentage. The Mongol conquests killed about 11% of the global population at the time. The Anlushan Rebellion in China might have killed 36 million. The Taiping Rebellion, another 19 million. Kayla felt sick. How? Why would you fight each other like this? Religion, resources, territory, politics, pride. Take your pick. Amy's voice was matter-of-fact. We've been fighting each other for about 10,000 years of recorded history. Pretty much non-stop. But you seem so peaceful now, Kayla protested. We learned, Amy said simply. After we developed nuclear weapons, we realized we could destroy ourselves completely. So we got better at talking instead of fighting. Mostly, we still have conflicts, but nothing like the old days. That night, Kayla couldn't sleep. She lay in bed next to Jake, listening to him breathe, and thought about what Amy had told her. 10,000 years of war. Humans fighting humans, killing each other by the millions, developing new and terrible ways to destroy each other. And the Valorian Empire had fought these people for 3 years and considered it a success to survive. The next month, Jake invited her to watch a military training exercise. Kayla expected a formal display, like the ones Valorian commanders put on for visiting dignitaries. Instead, she watched chaos. Human soldiers moved through a simulated city. They split into small groups, attacked from unexpected angles, used the environment as a weapon. They set traps. They adapted when those traps failed. One squad faked a retreat, drew the opposing force into an ambush, and wiped them out. We call it urban warfare, Jake explained. Fighting in cities is messy. You can't use traditional tactics. You have to be creative. Colonel Ben Harris stood nearby, watching his soldiers train. We've been fighting in cities for thousands of years, he said. You learn things. How to use buildings for cover. How to move without being seen. How to turn every street corner into a potential kill zone. This is training? Kayla asked. For what enemy? Ben and Jake exchanged a look. Any enemy? Ben said finally. We train to fight anyone, anywhere, under any conditions. Desert, Arctic, space, underground, water, you name it. We've probably fought there at some point in our history. Later, Jake took her to a memorial wall. It was a long black stone carved with names and dates. What is this? She asked. Species that humans have outlasted, Jake said quietly. The Neanderthals, the Denisovans, the Homo erectus, all extinct now. We're the only ones left. You killed them? Some we absorbed. Humans today carry Neanderthal DNA. But yes, some we fought, some we outcompeted. Some died from diseases we carried. We're the survivors of a long, brutal process. It made us tough. Maybe too tough. Kayla felt cold despite the warm sun. The breakthrough came 3 months after she arrived on Earth. She was alone in Jake's apartment, and she got curious about his personal files. She knew she shouldn't look. It was a violation of trust, but she needed to understand. The files were not even locked. Jake had nothing to hide. She opened his military service record and started reading. What she found made her hands shake. Jake had served in the border war against Valoria, yes. But his file also contained training records, certifications in 47 different weapon systems, expert ratings in zero-gravity combat, atmospheric combat, and ground assault. Languages: 6, fluent, 12, conversational. Survival training: desert, Arctic, jungle, ocean, space. This wasn't the record of a simple military liaison. This was the record of a weapon. A human weapon. Honed by thousands of years of experience in killing. She dug deeper into the public military databases. The information was all there. Not even classified. Humans had fought more than 14,000 wars in their recorded history. They had developed weapons that could kill at ranges from touching distance to thousands of kilometers. They had created poisons, diseases, nuclear weapons, antimatter bombs, and they had rules for all of it. The Geneva Conventions, the Terran Accords, treaties and agreements that limited what weapons they could use, how they could fight, when they could escalate. Kayla found a document labeled Rules of Engagement, Non-Human Conflicts. She opened it with trembling hands. It was a protocol list. 47 levels of escalation. At level 1, humans used limited forces with restricted weapons. At level 10, they deployed their main fleet. At level 20, they authorized total war. At level 47, the protocol simply said, Xenocide. Complete destruction of enemy species. Requires unanimous approval of the Security Council. She checked the classification on the Valorian border conflict. Her people had fought for 3 years, lost thousands of soldiers, nearly bankrupted their empire. The humans had classified it as a level 3 engagement. Level 3. Kayla ran to the bathroom and vomited. When she came out, Jake was home. He saw her face and immediately looked concerned. Kayla, what's wrong? I read your files, she whispered. I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't have, but I needed to know. He didn't look angry. He looked sad. And now you know. You were holding back, the whole time. You could have destroyed us. Jake sat down heavily. Could have, yes. Would have. If you'd pushed us far enough. But you didn't. You agreed to talk. You agreed to peace. So we never had to show you what we're really capable of. Why? Kayla asked. Why hide it? Why not just threaten us with your real strength? Because that would make us the bullies, Jake said quietly. We learned a long time ago that might doesn't make right. Just because we can destroy someone doesn't mean we should. So, we created rules. We limited ourselves. We tried to find peaceful solutions first. He looked at her with those warm brown eyes that had seemed so kind. Now she saw the sadness in them. The weight of knowledge. I volunteered to marry you because I lost 300 soldiers in those border fights, he said. 300 friends. And I knew that if the war continued, if it escalated, I would lose everything. Your people would lose everything. Better to build a bridge than to burn one. Kayla sat down beside him. Her whole worldview had shattered. Everything she thought she knew about humans was wrong. They weren't weak. They weren't lucky. They were terrifying. And they had chosen mercy. Kayla couldn't let it go. Every day brought new discoveries that shook her understanding of the universe. She started researching other species that had fought humans. What she learned kept her awake at night. Amy introduced her to Ambassador Trevin from the Zeeks civilization. The Zeeks had once been a proud empire spanning 200 planets. Now they controlled only 12. Trevin was old, his scales faded to a dull gray. He agreed to meet Kayla in a quiet garden on the diplomatic grounds. He moved slowly, like someone carrying a heavy burden. "You want to know about fighting humans?" Trevin said. It wasn't a question. "I can see it in your eyes. The same look we all had when we first learned the truth." "Please," Kayla said. "Tell me what happened to your people." Trevin sat down on a bench. He was quiet for a long moment, staring at nothing. 80 years ago, the Zeke's empire was powerful. We had conquered 73 species. We thought ourselves invincible. Then we encountered humanity. What happened? At first, it seemed easy. We attacked their colony worlds. We won every battle. In the first year, we occupied 40 human planets. We killed millions of them. We thought we had broken them. He laughed, but it was a bitter sound. We were fools. What changed? They stopped playing defense, Trevin said simply. For 1 year, they let us advance. They evacuated civilians. They preserved their fleet. They studied how we fought. Then they decided they had learned enough. Kayla felt her stomach tighten. What did they do? Everything. Trevin's voice shook. They hit our supply lines first. Destroyed our logistics. We couldn't reinforce our forward positions. Then they started taking back planets, not slowly. Fast. Brutal. They didn't just defeat our forces. They destroyed them completely. No survivors. No mercy. But surely your empire fought back. We tried. Oh, we tried. We threw everything at them. Our entire fleet. All our weapons. Nothing worked. They adapted too quickly. Every tactic we used, they countered within days, sometimes hours. It was like fighting our own shadow. Trevin looked at Kayla with haunted eyes. They fought us for 15 years. By the end, our empire was shattered. We lost 188 planets. Billions of our people died. And you want to know the worst part? They could have wiped us out completely, but they stopped. They offered peace. They let us keep 12 worlds, enough to survive, but never enough to threaten anyone again. Why did they stop? I asked the human admiral that question when we signed the surrender, Trevin said. He told me, "We don't fight to conquer. We fight to end threats. You're not a threat anymore." Kayla thanked Trevin and left the garden. She felt numb, but she had to know more. She met with Professor Dan Foster, a human historian who specialized in what he called xenocide studies. His office was filled with books and data tablets. Pictures on the walls showed different alien species. "You want to know the dark history," Dan said when she arrived. "Most people don't want to hear about this. But you're different. You need to understand." "Please," Kayla said. "I need the truth. All of it." Dan pulled up a holographic display. It showed a timeline stretching back 200 years. Humanity's first contact with intelligent aliens was the Krell. Peaceful. We learned a lot from them. Became friends. That set the pattern we hoped for. But it didn't last. He pointed to a red mark on the timeline. The Wren attacked us without warning. Destroyed 3 colonies. 10 million dead. They were aggressive, militaristic, believed in conquest. We tried to negotiate. They saw it as weakness, so we fought back. And the Wren don't exist anymore, Dan said quietly. We didn't mean to wipe them out completely. We just wanted them to stop. But they wouldn't. Every time we pushed them back, they regrouped and attacked again. Finally, our leaders decided the threat had to end permanently. It took 30 years, but we hunted them across 300 star systems. The last Heron died in 2287. Kayla felt sick, but she forced herself to keep listening. The Korth were next. Then the Vreks. Then the Silicates. 3 more species that chose extinction over peace. The galaxy learned to fear us. Some species saw it as evil. Others saw it as justice. We saw it as survival. Dan showed her more records. Wars against the Krelthan. Against the Doom Collective. Against the Ravagers. Some ended in peace treaties. Others ended in extinction. In every case, humans had tried diplomacy first. But when pushed, they pushed back 1,000 times harder. We created the Terran Accords after the Vrex War, Dan explained. Rules to limit ourselves. We never wanted to be monsters, but we learned that sometimes, to protect innocent life, you have to be willing to do monstrous things to those who won't stop. How many species have humans destroyed? Kayla asked. 3 completely extinct. 7 empires broken and reduced. 12 major wars. Hundreds of minor conflicts. Dan looked sad. We don't celebrate this. We carry it like a scar, but we won't apologize for surviving. That night, Kayla lay in bed unable to sleep. Jake was away on a training mission. She was alone with her thoughts. And her thoughts were terrifying. The Valorian Empire had come so close to destruction. If they had pushed harder, if they had refused to negotiate, if they had attacked human civilian targets instead of military ones, the humans would have escalated. And her people would have been wiped from the stars. She got up and went to the window. Earth looked peaceful in the moonlight. But she knew the truth now. This beautiful planet was home to the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Not because they loved war, but because they were so incredibly good at it. A few days later, General Kate Palmer agreed to meet with Kayla. Kate was a tall woman with steel-gray hair and sharp blue eyes. She commanded the Human Defense Force. When she walked into a room, everyone stood straighter. You've been asking a lot of questions, Kate said without preamble. About our military capabilities, our history, our wars. I needed to understand, Kayla replied. And do you? Do you understand now? Kayla took a deep breath. I understand that my people nearly destroyed themselves through ignorance. We thought we were stronger. We thought the war was going well. We had no idea. Kate sat down across from her. Your military commanders knew. Or at least, they suspected. That's why some of them opposed the peace treaty. They wanted to test us, see if we were really as dangerous as the rumors said. And if they had, then you wouldn't be here, Kate said bluntly. We would have activated Protocol 20. Full fleet deployment. Total war. Your empire would have fallen within a year. Maybe less. Why tell me this? Why not let me remain ignorant? Kate smiled. But it wasn't a warm smile. Because you're going to go back to your people someday. You're going to be an ambassador between our species, and you need to be able to tell them the truth. The real reason why we prefer peace, which is, because we're good at war, Kate said simply. Very, very good. 10,000 years of practice. We've fought in every environment, against every type of enemy. We've developed weapons that can crack planets, diseases that can target specific DNA, computer viruses that can shut down entire civilizations. We have protocols for fighting in ways you can't imagine. She leaned forward. But here's what makes us different from every warlike species we've ever met. We know when to stop. We know when we've won. And we know that real victory isn't about conquest. It's about building something better than war. Kayla felt tears on her face. She didn't try to hide them. Jake told me he volunteered to marry me to save lives, both human and Valorian. Jake lost a lot of friends in the border conflicts, Kate said gently. 300 soldiers under his command. He blamed himself. When the marriage alliance was proposed, he jumped at it. Saw it as a way to make their deaths mean something. I thought he married me out of duty. Or politics. He married you out of hope, Kate corrected. Hope that our species could learn to live together. That we could build bridges instead of weapons. That maybe, just maybe, we could be better than our history. When Jake returned home 2 days later, Kayla met him at the door. She threw her arms around him and held him tight. I'm sorry, she whispered. For what? For thinking you were weak. For thinking humans were primitive. For not understanding. She pulled back to look at him. You married me to save my people. You knew what would happen if the war continued. I married you because I believed in peace, Jake said. And because I hoped we could make this work. The marriage, yes. But also the alliance. The future. I was so arrogant, Kayla said. You were raised in an empire that conquered others, Jake replied gently. You believed what you were taught, but now you know better. Question is, what are you going to do with that knowledge? Kayla thought about Trevin and his broken empire, about the extinct species in the historical records, about the protocols that humans had created to limit their own terrible strength. I'm going to make sure my people understand, she said firmly. I'm going to teach them the truth about humanity. Not to make them afraid, but to make them grateful. Grateful that you chose mercy. Jake smiled and kissed her forehead. That's my girl. That night, as Kayla fell asleep, she felt different. The fear was still there. The knowledge of what humans could do would haunt her forever. But there was something else too. Respect, and maybe, just maybe, the beginning of real love for the man who had saved her entire species by choosing peace over war. The emergency broadcast woke Kayla in the middle of the night. Jake was already out of bed, pulling on his uniform with practiced speed. His face was grim. What's happening? Kayla asked, her heart pounding. Krath attack, Jake said shortly. They hit 3 Valorian border colonies. Reports are saying millions dead. Kayla felt the blood drain from her face. She grabbed her communicator and called her father. The Emperor's face appeared, older and more tired than she remembered. Father, I heard. How bad is it? Bad, daughter, very bad. The Krath came without warning. They destroyed our defense stations first. Then, they bombarded the colonies from orbit. Civilians. Kayla, they targeted cities, schools, hospitals. They wanted maximum casualties. Why? What do they want? Territory, resources, power. The same things every warmonger wants. Her father's jaw tightened. We tried to contact them. Offered to negotiate. They responded by attacking 2 more worlds. They're calling us weak, calling the humans weak, saying our alliance proves we're both cowards afraid to fight. Jake appeared beside Kayla, listening. Emperor Theron, this is Captain Morrison. I'm sorry for your loss. Has the Krath government issued any demands? They demand our surrender, Theron said bitterly. Complete submission. They say if we refuse, they'll continue to destroy 1 world per week until we kneel. That won't happen, Jake said firmly. The Alliance Treaty has a mutual defense clause. An attack on Valorian worlds is an attack on humanity. We'll mobilize immediately. Theron looked surprised. You would fight for us? Even though this isn't your war? It became our war the moment they killed Valorian civilians under the protection of our alliance, Jake replied. We take our commitments seriously. Within hours, Kayla watched as Earth transformed. The peaceful planet she had come to know revealed its true nature. Ships that had been in reserve suddenly appeared in orbit. Thousands of them. Sleek warships that made Valorian vessels look primitive. The fleet that had fought her people had been perhaps 10% of humanity's true military strength. Admiral Chris Wade took command of the joint human-Valorian fleet. He was younger than Kayla expected, with sandy hair and green eyes that missed nothing. His briefing was direct and cold. The Krath Dominion controls 84 star systems. Their military is large but undisciplined. They rely on overwhelming force rather than strategy. They've never faced an opponent who could match them ship for ship. They certainly haven't faced one that exceeds them. He pulled up tactical displays. We have 3 objectives. First, eliminate their ability to threaten Valorian or human worlds. Second, rescue any survivors from the attacked colonies. Third, make it clear to every species in the galaxy that attacking our allies has consequences. Kayla raised her hand. Admiral, I request permission to join the fleet. As a liaison between human and Valorian forces, Jake started to protest, but Admiral Wade spoke first. Granted, you'll be assigned to my flagship. We leave in 6 hours. The journey to Krath space took 3 days. Kayla spent the time watching human military operations. It was like nothing she had ever seen. Every movement was precise. Every order was clear. The humans moved like a single organism, each part knowing exactly what to do. She met Commander Maya Torres, who led the special operations teams. Maya was short and compact, with dark hair pulled back severely. Her eyes were hard as stone. "I don't like politicians on military operations," Maya said bluntly. "But the Admiral says you stay. So you stay. Just keep out of the way, and don't get killed. I don't want to explain to your husband how I lost you." "I won't be a burden," Kayla promised. Maya snorted. "We'll see." The first battle came at the Krath border. The Krath fleet was waiting, confident. They outnumbered the human ships 2-1. Their commander broadcast a message mocking the humans for daring to challenge them. Admiral Wade's response was simple: "Weapons free. Show them why they should have stayed home." The battle lasted 17 minutes. Kayla watched in horror as human ships moved through space like dancers. They didn't trade shots with the Krath. They used precision strikes, targeting engines, weapons, life support. The Krath ships died quickly, efficiently. When it was over, 2/3 of the Krath fleet was disabled or destroyed. The rest fled. "Pursuit?" one of the human officers asked. "Negative," Wade replied. "Let them run. Let them tell their leaders what happened here." But the Krath leadership didn't listen. They sent more ships, bigger fleets. They attacked human supply lines. They tried ambushes. Nothing worked. Every tactic they used, humans countered within hours. 3 weeks into the campaign, Maya approached Kayla. "You wanted to see what we really do? Come with me. We're hitting a Krath command center tonight." Kayla joined Maya's team. 20 humans, all moving silently through the night on a Krath military world. They wore armor that bent light, making them nearly invisible. Their weapons made almost no sound. The Krath command center was supposed to be impregnable: heavy shields, automated defenses, guards everywhere. Maya's team went through it like smoke through a screen. Kayla watched as they disabled guards without killing them when possible. They planted explosives with surgical precision. They accessed the Krath military network and downloaded everything. And they did it all in 42 minutes. "Charges set," Maya reported. Falling back, they were 3 kilometers away when the explosives detonated. The command center collapsed in a pillar of fire. Kayla stared at the destruction. "How many did we kill?" she asked quietly. 68 Krath military personnel," Maya replied, checking her data pad. "We evacuated the civilian workers first. This was a military target only." "You evacuated them? Your enemy's civilians?" Maya looked at her like she was stupid. "We're not monsters. We hit military targets. Krath leadership is who we want, not some secretary or janitor who just works there." Over the next 2 weeks, human forces systematically dismantled the Krath military. They destroyed supply depots. They eliminated communication networks. They hit the Krath so fast and so hard that the enemy couldn't coordinate a defense. And then came the final stroke. Maya led a mission deep into Krath space. 50 human special operators against the Krath capital world. Kayla wasn't allowed to join this one. She could only watch from the flagship as Maya's team infiltrated the heart of enemy territory. In one night, they neutralized the entire Krath leadership. The military council, the warlord who had ordered the attacks, his top generals, all captured or killed. The Krath government collapsed. "How?" Kayla asked Admiral Wade. "How is that possible?" "Practice," Wade said simply. "We've been doing this for a very long time." The Krath sued for peace 6 weeks after the war started. Their empire was shattered. Their military was broken. They had learned what the Zix and so many others had learned before them. Humans didn't fight to win battles. They fought to end wars. Permanently. During the peace negotiations, Kayla sat beside Jake. He had been promoted to major for his work, coordinating Valorian and human forces. He looked tired, but satisfied. "You ended it so quickly," Kayla said. "Was that to minimize casualties?" "On all sides," Jake confirmed. "The longer a war lasts, the more people die. soldiers and civilians. We learned that lesson the hard way. So now, when we fight to finish it fast. The Krath representative signed the surrender treaty with shaking hands. Kayla noticed he couldn't look directly at any of the humans. As they left the negotiation room, Admiral Wade pulled Kayla aside. You saved Jake's life during that ground operation 3 weeks ago, when those Krath soldiers ambushed his position. Kayla remembered. The explosion. Jake pinned under debris. Krath soldiers closing in. She had grabbed a weapon and fought back, buying time for reinforcements to arrive. I did what I had to do, she said. You did what a soldier does, Wade corrected. You protected your squad. Jake told me you handled yourself better than some career military. You've earned respect, Princess. From all of us. That night, Jake held her close. I was terrified when you joined that fight. I thought I was going to lose you. I wasn't going to let them take you from me, Kayla said. I finally understand what you are. What humans are. And I know what I am now too. What's that? Your wife. Your partner. Your ally. She looked up at him. And someone who will make sure the galaxy understands that humans choose peace not from weakness, but from strength. You could destroy any of us. But you'd rather save us instead. Jake kissed her gently. You get it now. Finally. I do. Kayla whispered. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure everyone else gets it too. Outside their window, the stars shone peacefully. The Krath War was over. The Valorian Empire was safe. And Kayla had learned the most important lesson of all. The most dangerous species in the galaxy was the one that knew when to sheath its sword. And humanity had mastered that lesson after 10,000 years of blood. 6 months after the Krath War ended, Kayla stood before the Valorian Council. The Grand Chamber was filled with nobles and military commanders. Her father sat on his throne, watching her with proud eyes. This was the moment she had been preparing for. Honored council members, Kayla began, her voice steady. I stand before you today not just as a princess of Valoria, but as the wife of a human. I have lived among them, I have studied their history. I have fought beside them. And I am here to tell you the truth about our allies. The chamber fell silent. Everyone leaned forward. When I first agreed to marry Captain Jake Morrison, I believed I was making a sacrifice. I thought humans were fortunate to survive our war with them. I thought they were weak, and they knew it, so they offered peace instead of facing defeat. She paused. I was wrong about everything. Murmurs rippled through the council. Commander Vorn Kess, who had opposed the marriage alliance, stood up. Princess, are you saying the humans deceived us? No, Commander. I'm saying we deceived ourselves. Kayla activated a holographic display. The border conflict we fought for 3 years. The war that nearly bankrupted our empire and cost us thousands of lives. The humans classified it as a level 3 engagement. What does that mean? Someone called out. It means they have 44 higher levels of military response that they never used against us. The fleet we fought was approximately 1/10 of their true military strength. The weapons we faced were deliberately limited. They were holding back the entire time. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Kayla waited for them to quiet down before continuing. Humans have been fighting wars for 10,000 years. Not against aliens. Against each other. They have perfected the art of destruction. They have weapons that can crack planets, diseases that can target specific DNA. They have protocols for total war that would terrify any species in the galaxy. Then why didn't they use these weapons against us? Her father asked quietly. Because they don't fight to conquer. They fight to end threats. And we stopped being a threat when we agreed to talk instead of fight. Kayla showed images of the Krath War. 6 weeks. That's how long it took humans to shatter an empire that had conquered 84 star systems. The Krath learned what we nearly learned. What 7 other empires have learned. What 3 extinct species learned too late. She looked around the chamber. Humans are the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Not because they love war, but because they are so terrifyingly good at it. And the reason they prefer peace is because they know exactly what war costs. They've paid that price thousands of times. Commander Kess spoke again, his voice subdued. Why are you telling us this, Princess? Because ignorance nearly destroyed us. If we had refused the marriage alliance, if we had escalated the conflict, if we had attacked human civilian targets, they would have activated higher protocols, and the Valorian Empire would be a footnote in history, broken like the Zix, extinct like the Huren. Kayla's voice grew stronger. I'm telling you this so you understand the gift we've been given. Peace with humanity isn't submission, it's survival. And more than that, it's opportunity. They want to build something better. They want allies, not subjects. They want to teach us what they've learned, so we don't have to learn it through blood. Her father stood. The council will consider your words carefully, daughter. You have given us much to think about. The news of Kayla's speech spread throughout the galaxy. Other species began requesting information about humans. Some asked for treaties. Others asked for alliances. Many asked for marriage exchanges. Following the Valorian example, 3 months later, Kayla stood in a hospital room, holding a tiny infant, her daughter, Sophie Morrison. The baby had Kayla's silver eyes, but Jake's warm skin tone. She was perfect. Jake sat beside the bed, looking at his daughter with wonder. She's beautiful. She's a bridge, Kayla said softly. Between our peoples. The first of many, I hope. Ambassador Lisa Grant visited later that day. She brought gifts from Earth and from Valoria Prime. She's already famous, Lisa said, smiling at baby Sophie. The first human Valorian child. Symbol of the Alliance. Every news channel in known space has been talking about her. I hope that's not too much pressure for one little girl, Jake said, gently touching his daughter's tiny hand. She won't be alone, Kayla replied. Other species are already arranging similar alliances. The Zix, the Quellan, even the Krath have asked about cultural exchange programs. The galaxy is changing. Lisa agreed. For the better, I think. Humans tried to tell everyone we preferred peace, but nobody believed us. They thought it was propaganda. Now, thanks to you, they understand. Over the next year, Kayla and Jake worked together to establish the Institute for Interspecies Understanding. It was a school, a research center, and a diplomatic hub all in one. Aliens came to learn about human history and culture. Humans came to learn about other species. Kayla became the director. Her first act was to create a mandatory course on human military history. Not to frighten other species, but to help them understand. People fear what they don't understand, she explained to her first class of students. Species from across the galaxy sat in her classroom, listening. Humans seem peaceful now, friendly, kind. And they are all those things. But they're also capable of terrible violence when threatened. Understanding both sides of their nature is crucial. She showed them footage of human wars. The trenches of the First World War. The atomic bombs of the Second. The siege tactics of ancient times. The space battles of the colonial era. Students watched in horror and fascination. But here's what makes humans special, Kayla continued. They remember. They learn. After every war, they try to build something better. The United Nations, the Geneva Conventions, the Terran Accords. They keep creating rules to limit themselves because they know what they're capable of. A young Quellan student raised her hand. Teacher Kayla, does this mean we should fear humans? No, Kayla said firmly. It means you should respect them. It means you should value their friendship. It means you should never, ever mistake their kindness for weakness. She showed them the final image. It was a photo of her and Jake on their wedding day, smiling at the camera. I married a human to stop a war. I thought I was making a sacrifice. Now I know the truth. Jake and his people gave my empire the greatest gift possible. They gave us a future. The Institute grew. Within 2 years, it had campuses on 15 worlds. Kayla's curriculum became the standard for understanding human-alien relations. Diplomats studied there. Military officers studied there. Anyone who wanted to work with humans came to learn from Kayla. On Sophie's second birthday, Kayla and Jake hosted a celebration that brought together humans and Valorians. Children played together in the garden. Adults talked and laughed. The barriers between species seemed to melt away. General Kate Palmer attended, now retired but still respected. She found Kayla watching the children play. "You did it," Kate said quietly. "You helped the galaxy understand us." "I only told them the truth," Kayla replied. "That humans are complex, capable of both great kindness and great destruction, and that they choose kindness whenever possible." "Not just humans," Kate said. "All of us. Every species has the capacity for both. Humans just had longer to figure out which path leads to survival." Emperor Theron visited Earth for Sophie's birthday. He had aged well, looking healthier than he had in years. The stress of potential extinction had lifted from his shoulders. "Kayla, I owe you an apology," he said as they walked through the garden. "When you volunteered to marry a human, I thought you were throwing your life away. I thought I was sending you into exile for the good of the Empire. And now?" Kayla asked. "Now I see I gave you the most important mission in Valorian history. You didn't just end a war. You prevented future wars. You built understanding where there was only fear and ignorance." They watched as Jake played with Sophie and several Valorian children. He was teaching them a human game called tag. The children's laughter filled the air. "He's a good father," Theron observed. "A good man. The best," Kayla agreed. "He represents everything humanity can be. Strong but gentle. Capable of war but devoted to peace. I was so lucky to marry him." "Luck had nothing to do with it," her father said. "He volunteered. He chose you. Just as you chose him. That's what makes this alliance work. Choice. Understanding. Respect." That evening, after the party ended and Sophie was asleep, Kayla and Jake sat on their balcony watching the stars. Earth glowed below them. Ships from a dozen species moved through orbit, all flying in peace. "Do you ever regret it?" Jake asked. "Leaving Valoria, marrying me, taking on all this responsibility?" Kayla leaned against him. "Never. I thought I understood the universe when I agreed to marry you. I thought I knew how power worked, how empires functioned, how wars were won. You taught me I was wrong about everything. I didn't teach you. You learned. There's a difference. You were patient with me, when I was arrogant, when I was frightened, when I finally understood the truth." She looked up at him. "You could have let me stay ignorant. It would have been easier. But you respected me enough to let me discover the truth myself." "You deserved the truth," Jake said simply. "Everyone does. That's why what you're doing with the Institute is so important. You're giving other species the chance to understand without having to learn through bloodshed." "I learned something else too," Kayla said softly. "I learned what love is. Real love. Not duty or politics or alliance. Love." Jake kissed her. "I love you too. From the first moment I saw you. Even though you looked at me like I was a primitive barbarian." Kayla laughed. "I did not. You absolutely did. But I didn't mind. I knew you'd come around eventually." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the peaceful galaxy. Sophie would grow up in a universe where species understood each other, where the lessons of humanity's long, bloody history could help others avoid the same mistakes. Where the choice between war and peace was made with full knowledge of the consequences. Kayla thought about the path that had brought her here. A princess volunteering to marry an enemy to save her people. Discovering that her enemy was far more dangerous than she ever imagined. Learning that true strength meant knowing when not to use your power. And finally understanding that the galaxy's most fearsome warriors were also its most devoted peacekeepers. "Jake," she said quietly, "thank you." "For what?" "For choosing me. For showing me the truth. For giving me Sophie. For building this future with me." "Thank you for taking a chance on a human," Jake replied. "For being brave enough to learn. For teaching others. For being the bridge our species needed." Above them, the stars shone peacefully. And for the first time in galactic history, species across hundreds of worlds looked at those same stars without fear. Because they finally understood why no empire dared to fight humanity. Not because humans were unbeatable, but because humans knew that the greatest victory was the war you never had to fight. And after 10,000 years of warfare, they had finally learned how to choose peace. Kayla had married a human to stop a war. But in doing so, she had helped create something far greater. Understanding, unity, hope, and that was worth more than any empire.